The doors of the Grand Assembly Hall were 300 years old. They were made from metal that came from a dead star, and they had never opened for a human before. Today, they opened for one. Doyen Kong walked through them alone. The hall was enormous. It could hold 10,000 beings, and today it held representatives from 12 different species. They had come from across the galaxy to decide the fate of humanity. They had expected to make this decision without any humans present. They were wrong. Doyen's boots made soft sounds on the polished floor. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. Every eye, every sensor, every optical organ in the chamber turned toward him. He felt their stares like heat on his skin, but he did not slow down. He did not speed up. He walked at exactly the same pace. Crossing the vast distance to the central platform, where only invited speakers were allowed to stand, he was not invited. He did not care. High Arbiter Malik rose from his elevated seat. He was tall, even for his species. His body was covered in hard plates like armor, and his forearms were crossed in a gesture of anger. The Veth Dominion had ruled the Galactic Concord for 600 years, and Malik was their voice. What is this? Malik's voice boomed through the chamber. It was deep and harsh, like stones grinding together. No human was summoned to these proceedings. Ambassador Park is dead. Earth sent no replacement. Doyen reached the central platform. He stepped onto it without permission. Behind him, he heard gasps from a dozen different species. Some sounded like wind. Some sounded like clicking. Some sounded like nothing he had ever heard before. He turned to face the assembly. Ambassador Park was murdered, Doyen said. His voice was calm. It carried clearly through the hall's perfect acoustics. She was murdered 3 days ago. She was murdered by agents of the Olveri Federation, with approval from 3 other members of this Concord. Trade Minister Goran stood up sharply. He was Olvari, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color when he was angry. Right now, they were turning dark red. This is an outrage. This human speaks lies. Remove him immediately. Doyen looked at Goran. He did not blink. He did not look away. He simply waited. I asked a question, Malik said, his voice growing colder. Who are you? What authority do you have to stand in this chamber? My name is Doyen Kang, he replied. I am a captain in Earth's United Defense Fleet. I have no authority to negotiate. I have no authority to make deals or sign treaties. I was not sent here to talk. Malik's forearms unfolded slowly. Then why are you here? Doyen smiled. It was a small smile, but it made several of the delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. There was something in that smile that did not belong in a place of diplomacy. I am a message, he said. The chamber erupted in noise. Different species shouted in different languages. Translation devices struggled to keep up. Malik slammed one of his arms against his podium, and the sound cut through the chaos like a blade. Silence. The High Arbiter commanded. This human has no right to speak here. Security will remove him. Security did not come. Malik looked toward the entrance, where guards should have been rushing in. The doors remained closed. The guards remained absent. Something was wrong. Doyen reached into his uniform jacket. Several delegates flinched, expecting a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a small crystal, no larger than his thumb. He placed it on the pedestal at the center of the platform. Before you remove me, he said, you should see this. The crystal activated. Light poured from it, forming images in the air above the platform. The images showed a corridor on a space station. They showed Ambassador Unipark walking with 2 aides. They showed figures in dark suits approaching her. They showed weapons being raised. The assembly watched Ambassador Park die. They watched her fall to the ground. They watched the killers check her body. They watched one of them speak into a communicator. And they heard the voice that answered. It was Trade Minister Goran's voice, confirmed the recording said. The human representative has been eliminated. Proceed with Phase 2. The images faded. The crystal went dark. Silence returned to the chamber, but it was a different kind of silence now. It was the silence of beings who understood that something had changed forever. Goran's scales had gone pale. That recording is fabricated. It is a trick. Human technology is primitive. They could easily create false images. The recording is genuine, said a new voice. Everyone turned. Delegate Sira had spoken. She was Kethrani, a species so old that they had been traveling between stars when most other races were still learning to use fire. Her body was frail and covered in soft feathers that had turned gray with age. But her eyes were sharp. I have analyzed the data stream, Sira continued. The recording has not been altered. The voice pattern matches Trade Minister Goran with 99% accuracy. The location metadata is consistent with Station Verith, where Ambassador Park was killed. Goran opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. Malik stared at the dark crystal. Then he stared at Doyan. Even if this is true, he said slowly, what do you expect to happen? Do you expect us to apologize? Do you expect justice? You are one human, alone, in a chamber full of beings who could destroy your entire species. Doyan nodded. You could, he agreed. You have the ships. You have the weapons. You have the numbers. Earth has 32 colony worlds. The Concord controls over 4,000. You understand your position. I understand it perfectly. Doyan's voice did not waver. You murdered our voice. You killed the woman we sent to speak for us. You thought that would silence humanity? He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate he could see. You were wrong. Malik leaned forward. What exactly are you saying, human? Doyan clasped his hands behind his back. He stood straight, like a soldier giving a report. But this was not a report. This was something else entirely. I am saying that Earth has sent its response, he said. Ambassador Park came to you with words. She came with hope. She came believing that the Concord might accept humanity as partners. He paused. I did not come with hope. I came with a message from 8 billion humans who have just learned that the galaxy wants them dead. The chamber was absolutely still. The message is simple, Doyan said. Humanity declares war. Not on one species. Not on the Elvari alone. On the entire galactic concord. And in that moment, the galaxy changed forever. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. The words hung in the air like poison gas, seeping into every corner of the Grand Assembly Hall. Then the chamber exploded into chaos. Trade. Minister Goran was the first to find his voice. War, he shouted, his scales flashing between red and yellow. You stand here, one pathetic creature, and you dare to threaten the Concord with war. Your species has been traveling between stars for less than 200 years. We have been building empires since before your ancestors crawled out of the ocean. Other delegates joined in. The chamber filled with sounds of anger, disbelief, and mockery. Some species clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter. Others made low rumbling sounds of contempt. Doyan stood at the center of it all like a rock in a storm. He did not argue. He did not defend himself. He simply waited. High Arbiter Malik raised all 4 of his arms, demanding silence. The noise gradually died down, though tension remained thick in the air. You are either insane or incredibly stupid, Malik said to Doyan. Perhaps both. The Concord commands the largest military force in known space. We have ships that could reduce your homeworld to ash in a single day. Your colonies could be wiped out in a week. You're correct, Doyan said. Malik paused. He had expected argument, not agreement. Then you understand that this declaration of war is meaningless. It is the bark of a small animal pretending to be dangerous. I understand what you believe, Doyan replied. I understand that you see humanity as children playing at being adults. I understand that you think we are weak, foolish, and easily destroyed. He took a step forward. Several delegates instinctively moved back. I am here to explain why you are wrong. Delegate Sarah, the ancient Kethrani, had been watching in silence. Now she spoke, her voice soft but clear. Let him speak. We have already heard the accusation against our own members. Let us hear what the humans have to say. Malik looked at Sira with barely hidden irritation. The Kethrani were too old and too respected to ignore. Very well, he said. Speak, Human. Explain how your insignificant species plans to fight a war against the combined might of 12 civilizations. Doyan nodded slowly. First, let me tell you what we will not do. We will not meet your fleets in open battle. We will not try to hold territory. We will not attempt to conquer your worlds or destroy your governments. Goran made a harsh, laughing sound. Because you cannot. It would be pointless, Doyan corrected. You have more ships than we do. You have more soldiers. You have more resources. In a traditional war, you would win. We know this. We have always known this. Then what is the purpose of this war you have declared? Malik demanded. Doyan's expression did not change, but something in his eyes grew colder. The purpose is not victory. The purpose is consequence. He reached into his jacket again and produced another small device. When he activated it, a holographic image appeared above the platform. It showed a star map of Concord space with thousands of points of light representing inhabited worlds. You have 4,000 worlds, Doyan said. Industrial centers, agricultural planets, mining colonies, trade hubs. Your economy depends on all of them working together. If one planet falls, the others survive. If 10 planets fall, the others survive. Your civilization is robust and resilient. He touched the device, and the map changed. Red lines appeared, connecting hundreds of worlds. But you cannot protect them all. Not at the same time. Your fleets are powerful, but they cannot be everywhere at once. Malik's eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? I am not suggesting anything. I am telling you what will happen. Doyan's voice was flat, without emotion. For every human you kill, we will destroy infrastructure on 10 of your worlds. For every colony you blockade, we will cripple 20 of your trade routes. For every act of aggression against humanity, you will pay a price so high that your citizens will beg you to stop. The chamber went quiet again. This time the silence felt different. It felt like fear. A new hologram appeared beside the map. It showed a face that some of the delegates recognized from intelligence reports. Admiral Tai-Ho Shin, commander of Earth's United Defense Fleet. Members of the Concord, Admiral Shin said. His voice transmitted across the vast distance from Earth's outer defense perimeter. I am speaking to you from the bridge of the carrier, Dokdo. Behind me are 47 ships of the line and 200 support vessels. This is not our entire fleet. This is not even most of our fleet. He paused, letting the words sink in. For the past 60 years, while your governments debated whether to allow humanity into your alliance, we have been preparing. Not preparing to join you. Preparing for the day when you decided we were not worthy of existence? Admiral Shin's image gestured, and the view behind him changed to show a different kind of ship. It was small, sleek, and covered in a material that seemed to swallow light. This is a Spectre-class strike vessel. It carries no heavy weapons. It has no shields. It cannot win a battle against your warships, he smiled grimly. But you will never see it coming. Your sensors cannot detect it. Your defenses cannot stop it. And each one carries enough precision munitions to destroy a planetary power grid, a orbital shipyard, or a food distribution network. Trade Minister Goran stood up again. These are empty threats. You cannot have ships that our technology cannot detect. We did not develop this technology alone, Admiral Shin replied. Over the past century, humanity has made many friends. Small species, weak species, species that the Concord has ignored or exploited. They were happy to share what they knew with beings who treated them with respect. The Admiral's image flickered and then stabilized. You have spent 3,000 years building an empire based on strength. You crush those weaker than you. You exploit those who cannot fight back. You believed this made you safe. His voice hardened. You were wrong. Every species you stepped on, every civilization you humiliated, every people you treated as inferior, they remembered. And when humanity offered them friendship instead of contempt, they remembered that too. Doyan stepped forward again. Admiral Shin commands our conventional forces. But the ships I am talking about do not answer to any central command. They are crewed by volunteers, They have no bases for you to find, no supply lines for you to cut, no command structure for you to destroy. He looked directly at High Arbiter Malik. If you destroy Earth tomorrow, those ships will scatter across your space. They will hunt your commerce, cripple your industry, and bleed your economy until there is nothing left to bleed. They will never stop. They will never surrender. They will never negotiate. Delegate Sarah's voice cut through the tension. You are describing terrorism. Doyen turned to face her. For the first time, something like emotion flickered across his face. We are describing survival. When you are drowning, you grab whatever is closest. When you are dying, you fight however you can. Humanity did not choose this path because we wanted it. We chose it because you left us no other option. Syrah studied him with her ancient eyes. And what would make you stop? Doyen was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was almost gentle. Recognition. The right to exist. A seat at this table with the same rights as any other species. That is all we ever wanted. He looked around the chamber one last time. You could have given it to us for free. Now you will pay for it in blood. The silence that followed lasted for what felt like hours. In reality, it was only seconds. But in those seconds, the delegates of the Galactic Concord began to understand something that terrified them. The human was not bluffing. High Arbiter Malik was the first to recover. He had led the Concord through 2 major conflicts and countless smaller disputes. He had faced threats from powerful enemies before, but something about this situation was different. Something about the calm certainty in Doyen's voice made his plates itch with unease. You speak of ships we cannot see, Malik said slowly. You speak of attacks we cannot prevent. But words are cheap, human. Anyone can make threats. You're right, Doyen replied. So let me offer proof. He touched the communication device again. A new face appeared in holographic form above the platform. This man was older than Admiral Shin, with gray hair cut short and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. His uniform bore the insignia of Earth's highest military rank. General Sunwoo Choi, Doyen, announced, Minister of War for Earth's unified government. General Choi did not smile. He did not offer greetings or diplomatic pleasantries. He simply began speaking in a voice that carried the weight of absolute authority. 3 hours ago, one of our Spectre class vessels entered the orbit of Olvari Prime. It passed through your entire defense network without triggering a single alarm. It could have destroyed your capital's power grid. It could have eliminated your planetary leadership. Instead, it left this. He held up a small object. It was a metal cylinder with Earth's symbol engraved on its surface. This object is currently sitting on Trade Minister Goran's personal desk. In his private office, in the most heavily guarded building on Olvari Prime, Goran's scales went completely white. He staggered back, nearly falling into his seat. That is impossible, he whispered. My office is protected by systems that were designed to stop ships you can see, General Choi interrupted. Your defenses are impressive. Against any enemy you expected to face, they would be effective. We are not the enemy you expected. Malik's forearms tightened against his body. One infiltration proves nothing. Our security will be improved. Your advantage will disappear, perhaps General Choi acknowledged. But how long will that take? Months? Years? And during that time, how many ships do you think we will build? How many crews do you think we will train? He leaned forward, his eyes hard. We have been preparing for this moment for 6 decades. You have been preparing for it for 3 hours. Delegate Syrah raised one thin arm, requesting attention. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful rather than angry. General, I am old enough to have seen many wars. In my experience, wars end in one of 2 ways. Either one side wins completely, or both sides become tired of dying and agree to stop. What you are describing sounds like neither. General Choi nodded respectfully. Delegate Syrah, you are correct. What we are proposing is not a traditional war. It is something new. We call it the doctrine of consequence. He touched a control, and new images appeared. They showed graphs, charts, and projections. The doctrine is simple. We cannot defeat the Concord. We accept this, but we can make continuing the conflict so expensive that you will choose to stop. Every attack on human territory will be answered with attacks on Concord infrastructure, not military targets. Economic targets, trade stations, manufacturing centers, communication networks. The images change to show specific locations across Concord space. Your civilization runs on commerce. Your species depend on each other for resources, technology, and food. Disrupt that network even partially, and billions of beings will suffer. Not die, necessarily. Just suffer. Hungry children? Failing businesses. Collapsing markets. Trade Minister Gorin had recovered enough to speak. You would attack civilians? You would starve innocent people? We would do what is necessary to survive, General Choi replied without emotion. Your government approved the assassination of our ambassador. Your forces have been blockading our colonies for 3 years. Your Concord has made it clear that humanity has no place in the galaxy except as subjects or corpses. His voice grew colder. You declared war on us first? We are simply letting you know that we intend to fight back. Malik slammed one arm against his podium. This is madness. You are a species of 8 billion. The Concord represents over 2 trillion sentient beings. Even if you killed 1,000 of us for every one of you we killed, you would still lose. Doyen stepped forward. You are thinking like a general, high arbiter. You are counting bodies and calculating losses. But this is not about bodies. This is about will. He gestured at the delegates around him. Look at this chamber. 12 species representing thousands of worlds. How many of them truly want this war? How many of them are willing to watch their economies collapse? Our citizens suffer? Their futures burn all to exterminate a species that most of them have never even met. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Doyan noticed and continued. The Concord is an alliance of convenience. You work together because it benefits everyone. But the moment cooperation stops being beneficial, the alliance falls apart. He pointed at the cylinder that General Choi had shown. One object on Gorin's desk. One ship that slipped through defenses. Imagine 100 such ships. Imagine 1,000. Imagine waking up every morning wondering if today is the day a human bomb destroys your city's water treatment facility.
Oh.
General Choi spoke again. We are not trying to win this war. We are trying to make victory cost more than it is worth. You could kill every human in the galaxy, but by the time you finished, your civilization would be in ruins. Delegate Sierra closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked directly at Doyen. You understand that if you follow this path, there is no going back. Even if you achieve what you want, the hatred between our peoples will last for generations. The hatred already exists, Doyan replied quietly. You have hated us since the moment we left our solar system. You have hated us for being young, for being ambitious, for expanding faster than you thought appropriate. Ambassador Park tried to turn that hatred into respect. She tried to show you that we could be partners instead of enemies. His voice hardened. You killed her for it. You killed her because she was succeeding. Because some of the younger species were starting to listen to her. Because she was proving that humans might actually be worthy of joining your precious Concord. He took a deep breath. So yes, there will be hatred. There will be generations of distrust. But there will also be humans, alive, free. That is all that matters now. A door at the side of the chamber opened suddenly. A group of Veth security officers rushed in, weapons raised. They surrounded the platform, pointing their guns at Doyan. Doyan did not move. He did not even look at them. Hi, Arbiter. Malik smiled grimly. Your dramatic presentation is over, human. You will be taken into custody and interrogated. Your hidden ship will be found and destroyed. And then we will demonstrate to your species what happens to those who threaten the Concord. I would not do that. Doyan said calmly. You are in no position to give orders. Doyan finally turned to look at the guards. Then he looked back at Malik. At this moment, Commander Mingy Beek is aboard my ship, the Guangito, which is currently 300 meters from this station's main reactor. If I do not return safely within 1 hour, She has orders to destroy the reactor core. Malak's smile disappeared. You would kill yourself along with us. Doyan said, I am a message. Messages are meant to be delivered, no matter the cost. He clasped his hands behind his back again. Now, shall we continue our discussion, or shall we all die together? The guards looked at Malik, uncertain. Malik stared at Doyan with something that might have been hatred or might have been respect. Continue, the High Arbiter said finally. Let us hear the rest of your message. 60 years before Doyan Kong walked into the Grand Assembly Hall, a young scholar named Hajin Yu sat in a small office on Earth. Staring at data that made him sick, he had spent 5 years studying the Galactic Concord. He had learned their languages, analyzed their politics, and mapped their history. And he had reached a conclusion that he wished desperately was wrong. Humanity would never be accepted. The data was clear. In 3,000 years of Concord history, not a single new species had been granted full membership. The 12 founding races had built their alliance at the beginning, and they had kept it closed ever since. Other species were allowed to exist at the edge as trading partners, labor sources, buffer states, but equals, never. Hajin had written his report and submitted it to Earth's government. He had expected it to be ignored. Instead, he received a message summoning him to a meeting with the Minister of Defense. That meeting changed everything now. As the events in the Grand Assembly Hall unfolded, Hajin watched from a secure facility on Earth. He was old now, his hair white, and his hands unsteady. But his mind was still sharp, and he remembered every step of the long journey that had brought humanity to this moment. He remembered the day he first proposed the doctrine of consequence. The generals had laughed at him. A war strategy designed not to win. It sounded like surrender dressed in fancy words. But Hajin had been patient. He had shown them the numbers, the projections, the carefully calculated scenarios. He had explained that winning was impossible, but losing slowly was not. And losing slowly, while making the enemy bleed, could sometimes lead to a different kind of victory. It took 10 years for the military to accept his ideas. It took another 20 years to build the ships that would make those ideas reality. And it took Ambassador Yuna, Perk's death, to put those ideas into action. Hajin closed his eyes and remembered Yuna. She had been one of his students. Brilliant, passionate, and stubbornly optimistic. She had believed, truly believed, that the Concord could be convinced to accept humanity through diplomacy. She had dedicated her life to proving that peaceful coexistence was possible. 3 days ago, she had proven something else instead. She had proven that some enemies cannot be reasoned with. Some doors cannot be opened with words. But she had known. Even before she left for her final summit, she had known Hajin opened a file on his terminal. It was a video message recorded by Yuna the night before her departure. She had sent it to him personally, with instructions to release it if she did not return. In the video, Yuna looked tired. Her eyes were red as if she had been crying. But her voice was steady. Hajin, she said, if you are watching this, then I am dead. I knew there was a chance this would happen. The intelligence reports were clear. Some factions in the Concord have decided that I am too dangerous to let live. My work has been too successful. Some of the younger species are starting to see humans as potential allies rather than pests. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I am not telling you this because I want revenge. I am telling you because I want you to understand something. For 30 years, I have tried to show the galaxy that humanity deserves respect. I have argued, negotiated, pleaded, and compromised. I have swallowed insults and accepted humiliations that made me want to scream. Her eyes hardened. And in the end, none of it mattered. The Concord does not want partners. They want subjects. They want species that bow and scrape and accept whatever crumbs they are given. They look at humanity and see a threat not because we are powerful, but because we are proud. Because we refuse to kneel? She leaned closer to the camera. So this is my final message, old friend. Not to you, but to all of humanity. I tried the peaceful way. It does not work. These beings understand only one thing: strength. Show them that humans are not prey. Show them that we have teeth. Show them that every time they strike us, we will strike back twice as hard. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. Make them afraid. Hajin, make them so afraid that they will beg for the peace I tried to give them for free. The video ended. Hajin had released the message the next day. It had played on every screen on Earth and in every human colony across the stars. 8 billion people had watched Ambassador Yuna Park tell them that diplomacy had failed and war was the only answer. The response had been overwhelming. Within hours, volunteers began flooding military recruitment centers. Within days, the hidden shipyards that had been building Spectre-class vessels for decades received orders to double their production. Within weeks, Earth's government had authorized the doctrine of consequence as official policy. Humanity had decided to fight. Now, aboard the stealth ship Guangetto, Commander Minji Beek watched the events in the assembly hall through a secure data link. Beside her stood Lieutenant Yunbi Ro, the youngest officer on the ship, her face pale but determined. They are still talking, Yunbi said quietly. Do you think they will let Captain Kang leave alive? Mingi's expression did not change. They might. They might not. It does not matter. How can it not matter? He is our captain. Minji turned to look at the young lieutenant. Before he left, Doyan told me something. He said that Ambassador Park died so that humanity could see the truth. He said that if he had to die so that humanity could show its strength, it would be a fair trade. Yunbi's hands clenched at her sides. That is not fair. He should not have to die. No one should have to die, Minji agreed. But someone always does. The only question is whether their death means something. She looked back at the display showing the assembly hall. If they kill Doyan, we destroy this station. If this station is destroyed, 100 other ships across Concord space receive the signal to begin operations. Within a week, the galaxy will know that humanity cannot be bullied, cannot be murdered, cannot be erased. She put a hand on Yunbi's shoulder. His death would mean something. It would mean everything. In the assembly hall, Doyan was speaking again. The guards still surrounded him. Their weapons had lowered slightly. High Arbiter Malik was listening with an expression that had shifted from anger to something more complicated. You asked what we want, Doyan said. The answer has not changed since Ambassador Park first came to you 30 years ago. We want recognition. We want the right to travel freely, to trade fairly, to be treated as equals under galactic law. We want what every species wants, the chance to grow and thrive without fear. Trade Minister Gorin sneered. And if we refuse? If we decide that humanity is simply too dangerous to allow? Doyan looked at him calmly. Then you will have proven that we were right to prepare for war. And you will learn what happens when you corner an animal that has nothing left to lose. Delegate Sira rose slowly from her seat. Her ancient bones creaked, but her voice was clear. I have a question for you, Captain Kang. Not about war, or strategy, or revenge. A question about you, personally? Doyan nodded. Ask, do you want peace? Not humanity. Doyan Kong. The man standing before us. Do you want this to end without more bloodshed? For the first time since entering the chamber, Doyan's mask of calm seemed to crack. Just for a moment, something human showed through something tired, something sad, something almost broken, more than anything, he said softly. I joined the military to protect people, not to threaten them. I spent years hoping that Ambassador Park would succeed, that there would be no need for ships like the Guangetto, or doctrines like the one I carry. He straightened his shoulders. But hope is not a strategy. And when hope fails, you need something else. You need resolve. You need the willingness to do terrible things so that worse things do not happen. He looked at Sira with eyes that had seen too much. I do not want war, but I will fight one if I must, and I will win, or I will die trying. There is no third option. Sira studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. I believe you, she said. And I think that terrifies everyone in this room more than anything else you have said. The vote came 3 hours later. 3 hours of argument, accusation, and fear. 3 hours of delegates shouting at each other while Doyan stood silent at the center of the storm. 3 hours of the Galactic Concord tearing itself apart from the inside. It began with the Kathrani. Delegate Sira rose and announced that her species would no longer participate in any action against humanity. The Kathrani were too old, she said, to involve themselves in a war they could not win. Better to let the younger species learn the same lesson their ancestors had learned. Millennia ago, pride comes before destruction. The Alvari representatives tried to object. But Trade Minister Gorin was no longer in a position to lead them. Evidence of his role in Ambassador Park's assassination had spread across every communication network in the galaxy. His own government had already begun emergency procedures to remove him from office. By the end of the day, he would be under arrest. One by one, other species began to break away. The Morith, a peaceful herbivore race that had joined the Concord seeking protection, declared neutrality. They had no interest in dying for the ambitions of species that had always treated them as second-class members. The Kelith, an aquatic people whose home world provided crucial biological resources to a dozen other planets, announced that they would continue trading with humanity, regardless of what the Concord decided. Their ambassador made it clear that any species attempting to blockade Kelith shipping would face immediate consequences. Hi, Arbiter. Malik watched his alliance crumble with barely concealed fury. 3,000 years of Veth dominance, 3,000 years of careful political control. And it was all falling apart because of one human standing alone in a room. You have achieved nothing, Malik hissed at Doyen. Even if the Concord fractures, the Veth will continue. We will hunt your species to the edges of the galaxy if we must. Doyen regarded him without expression. You could do that. But ask yourself this, High Arbiter. How many of your citizens will die in the process? How many Veth colonies will burn while your fleets chase human shadows? How many generations will suffer for your pride? He stepped closer to Malik's podium. The guards tensed but did not move. I told you at the beginning that I am a message. The message is not about hate or revenge. The message is simple. Humanity is not worth the cost. Leave us alone, and we will leave you alone. Continue this conflict, and we will make you pay for every single drop of human blood with a river of your own. Delegate Sira spoke again, her voice carrying across the fractured chamber. I call for a vote. Not on war or peace, but on recognition. I move that humanity be granted full sovereign status under galactic law, with all the rights and protections that status provides. Malik's head snapped toward her. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious in my very long life, Sira replied. The alternative is a conflict that will damage every species in this room. I am too old to watch another generation destroy itself for nothing. The vote was not even close. 7 species voted in favor of recognition. 3 abstained. Only the Veth and the Alvari voted against, and the Alvari vote was immediately challenged due to their government's ongoing crisis. It was done. Humanity had won. Doyen felt the weight of the moment settle onto his shoulders. He had walked into this room expecting to die. He had been prepared to become a martyr, a spark that would ignite a war lasting generations. Instead, he was walking out as something else entirely, a victor. He did not feel victorious as he turned to leave. Elegant Sira called out to him. Captain Kang, one moment, please. He stopped and faced her. The ancient Kathrani descended slowly from her seat, her frail body moving carefully down the steps until she stood before him. Up close, she was even smaller than he had expected. The top of her head barely reached his chest. I want you to understand something, she said quietly. Her voice meant only for him. Today, you won. Tomorrow, you will have to live with what that victory cost. Not the cost to us, the cost to you. Doyen frowned. I do not understand. You will. She reached out and touched his hand with one thin, feathered finger. You came here ready to start a war. You came here with death in your heart and fire in your soul. That kind of resolve does not simply disappear when the crisis ends. It stays with you. It changes you. She looked up at him with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Guard your heart, Captain. Victory without peace is just another kind of defeat." She turned and walked away, leaving Doyan standing alone in the center of the emptying chamber. The doors of the Grand Assembly Hall opened for him one final time. He walked through them the same way he had entered, alone, silent and untouched. 6 hours later, President Narration addressed humanity. Her broadcast reached every human being in the galaxy, every colony, every ship, every station where humans lived and worked and dreamed. 8 billion people on Earth, and another 4 billion scattered across 32 colony worlds, all watched their president speak. "My fellow humans," Nari began, her voice steady and strong. "Today, we achieved something that many believed was impossible. Today, the Galactic Concord recognized humanity as a sovereign species with full rights under galactic law. Today, for the first time in our history, we stand as equals among the stars." She paused, allowing the words to sink in. This recognition did not come easily. It did not come through kindness or generosity. It came because we showed the galaxy that we would not accept extinction. It came because we were willing to fight. Her expression grew more serious. "I will not pretend that this is the end of our struggles. There are species that still hate us, governments that still wish us harm. The road ahead will be long and difficult, but we will walk it together, as we have always done." She looked directly into the camera, and it felt as if she were looking at each viewer personally. "They called us children. They called us pests. They called us a species that would be forgotten within a generation." Her voice rose. "They learned that children grow up. They learned that when you corner a species with nothing to lose, that species becomes the most dangerous thing in the universe." She smiled a fierce, proud smile. "Duh. Remember this day, my friends. Remember what we achieved. Remember that when one human walks into a room, there are 8 billion more standing behind them. Remember that we are humanity, and we will never, ever give up." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, humans cheered, cried, and embraced each other. In bars and homes and colony halls, they celebrated a victory that had seemed impossible just days before. But aboard the Guangetto, there was no celebration. Duhaon sat alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The ship had jumped to safe space hours ago, but he had not moved from his seat. He had not spoken to anyone. He had simply sat, watching the infinite darkness, thinking thoughts he could not share. The door opened behind him. He did not turn around. Commander Minji Beak walked in and sat down beside him. She did not speak immediately. She simply sat with him in silence, looking at the same stars, sharing the same moment. Finally, she said, "You did it. We did it," Doyan corrected. "All of us. Ambassador Park, General Choi, Admiral Shin, every person who built a ship, or trained a crew, or kept a secret for 60 years. He shook his head. "I was just the one who delivered the message, a message that could have gotten you killed." "Yes," Minji was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Was it worth it?" Doyan thought about the question. He thought about Ambassador Park, who had died believing in peace. He thought about the young soldiers who had volunteered to crew ships designed for suicide missions. He thought about the billions of humans who had lived their entire lives under the shadow of a galaxy that wanted them dead. "I do not know," he admitted. "Maybe we could have found another way. Maybe if we had been more patient, more willing to compromise, the Concord would have accepted us eventually." "You do not believe that?" "No," he sighed. "I do not. But I wish I did. I wish I could believe that violence was not the answer. I wish I could believe that kindness and reason could have solved this." He turned to look at Minji. Her face was illuminated by starlight, and for a moment she looked almost peaceful. "But we did not have the luxury of hope," he said. "We had only survival. And sometimes survival requires becoming something you never wanted to be." Minji nodded slowly. "So what happens now?" Doyan turned back to the stars. Out there somewhere, the Concord was still recovering from the shock of what had happened. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were realizing that their power was not as absolute as they had believed. And humanity, proud, stubborn, dangerous humanity, was finally taking its place among them. "Now we prove them wrong," Doyan said. "They think we are violent. They think we are savage. They think we won today because we were willing to be more brutal than they were. He stood up and something in his posture changed. The weight that had been pressing down on him seemed to lift, just slightly. We will show them that we can be more than warriors. We will build and trade and create. We will make friends with species they have ignored for centuries. We will prove that humanity deserves not just fear, but respect. He looked down at Minji. And for the first time since the Grand Assembly Hall, he smiled. They will remember that when one human walks into a room, there are 8 billion more standing behind them. But they will also learn that those 8 billion humans want peace, not war. And that the hand we extend in friendship is stronger than the fist we raise in anger.
Oh.
Minji stood up beside him. And if they refuse that hand, Doyen's smile faded, replaced by something harder. Something that Delegate Sira had seen and warned him about. Then we still have the fist. They stood together in the observation deck, two humans surrounded by the infinite darkness of space, watching the stars that now belonged to them as much as to anyone else. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed with it. For better or worse, they were here to stay.